Hello, and welcome to the Dads of Adventure podcast. Today, we are going to have some special topics, again, going through National Adoption Month. We just had Orphan Sunday and World Adoption Day, and all through the month of November, we're celebrating adoption in different ways with different guests and different organizations that are associated with adoption. So today I have Nick, Dreamindisneydad. I'll let him introduce himself in just a moment. If you're looking for Dads of Adventure, you can find us at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you're listening to this podcast, you can also find that in video format on our YouTube channel, DreamsMagicAdventure. And you can find us also at dadsofadventure.com, where you can sign up for the newsletter and our membership, as well as support Dads of Adventure if you choose to do so. Thank you for listening in today. Again, I mentioned we have Dreamindisneydad on, and we're going to talk some topics about, of course, being Disney dads and having positive Disney experiences with our families and life, and also with Disney. So I'll turn it over to him to tell everybody where you can find it.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. My name is Nick, AKA Dreamindisneydad. That's Dreamin' without a G. You can find me on Instagram using that handle. I'm also on YouTube, so you can search YouTube for Dreamindisneydad as well. Have some fun videos on there of my little man doing some movie reviews. And then sometimes we do some vlogging for another podcast called The Happiest Podcast on Earth. They're on YouTube as well as Instagram. And we get to showcase some of our fun adventures around the parks. So my wife Francie and I and my son Luke, who's 4, we live in Central Florida and have the blessed opportunity to frequent Walt Disney World pretty regularly. And that is what we like to showcase on my Instagram page. I also just kind of share some of the personal adventures that we get to go on outside of Walt Disney World, but it is primarily a Disney account for sure. We spend a lot of time at the parks. Like I said, we live like 30 to 45 minutes away from the parks. So we're there pretty often. A lot of our friends who are not Disney people give us the look like, "You're going back again?"
I know that look.
Yeah. So we get to live that adventure out and get to visit the resorts pretty often as well. So we just love to kind of take people along on the adventures that we go on around Walt Disney World. It's kind of fun to share the magic, and I love getting messages from people telling me that they get to live vicariously through me. Because it's why I do what I do on my Instagram. It's like it gives people the opportunity to share the magic if they can't physically be present at Walt Disney World. So
yeah, I know. Watching some of your accounts and stuff like that, it's like when something new is, we're fairly close to, but we a little bit farther away, and so we only can't really get there like right now in the afternoons because of the earlier park hour closings and things like that. But I know sometimes, like especially for like the Christmas stuff, I'm like, I have to avoid your account so I don't see everything before I get to see it for myself.
I try to give any spoilers away, but sometimes I can't help it. And you put the tree up, and I'm gonna post pictures.
Oh, of course, yeah, you have to. Yeah, so no complaints. It's just if you don't have the chance to be there, that's a great way to see it. And then it's I know like for like the Christmas parties, it's like I try to remember the Christmas party, and I'm like, okay, are we gonna go? We're not having them this year, but the picture is what drew me back into to go again to the it's like this snow and parade and all that. So it's exciting to see the pictures, and even if you can't be there in person.
Exactly.
So, for sure. Yeah. So we'll just start on just talking a little bit about you as a Disney dad. So I think one of the things that's kind of an easy but hard topic because I've asked people this before, and there's one of two ways they go. They're either um, a quick answer, or it's um, can I put my favorite for each park. But so, what is, and you can do it by season, however you want to do it now, or just general. But what is one of your favorite Disney snacks?
Snacks.
Snacks.
Oh man, I'm so basic with this one. I really love the popcorn at Disney. I know that that's super basic, and people are probably going to roll their eyes listening to this, but I don't know. I don't know that it's vastly different from popcorn that you would get at like a movie theater or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe it's just like the magic of Disney that makes it taste 10 times better. But and there's just something so special about the popcorn. And I love collecting a lot of the popcorn buckets as well. I probably spend way too much money on that. But I have so many. And it's been a kind of a bummer in this season at Disney. And by season, I mean sort of, navigating through the pandemic at Walt Disney World, because obviously, we want to respect the rules and the guidelines that they have to keep everybody safe. So you can't really walk around and eat like you used to.
Mm-hmm.
And popcorn has not been something that I've been able to enjoy really since we've been going back to the park. So I find myself missing it often. So popcorn would be up there on the list for me, and churros would also be high up there on the list. And I saw today that they have like churros with eggnog, and I'm all about that life. So I'm gonna have to get to the Magic Kingdom ASAP so that I can have a churro and eggnog pretty quick.
Is that I feel like there was one themed to Chippendale. Is that?
Yeah,
Is that the
I've
one you're
I've
talking about?
seen that one. That one I think has like apples or something on it.
Okay, so this
Yeah,
is a new one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
just
haven't heard
saw
of
it.
it.
I saw it on Twitter today. I'm gonna have to dig more into it and see what it's all about. But those are two of my holiday favorites. So
Okay.
cinnamon and eggnog go well together. So
Well, I will speak to the popcorn too, because you are right. I mean, um, it's pop secret popcorn, which you can get in the packages, but yeah, it's special at Disney.
magic.
I mean, I can go from popcorn cart to popcorn cart and tell you which one is my favorite in each park,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
within vicinity of like, okay, is it worth it to go all the way over here to get this one, or is this one almost as good?
Let's be
Where
okay for now.
you know
Yeah,
I have my ones that are my exiting popcorn stands,
yeah.
where it's not worth it to go all the way back to the best one. Sometimes like Epcot, I think the best one is in the American Pavilion.
Absolutely.
But
As it should be.
but I just discovered the one over by Mission Space,
Okay.
um, and it is really good. Like
Mm,
I've never, I don't think I've ever gotten popcorn from there, but typically we like when we're leaving, it used to be the popcorn cart with the multiple flavors,
yeah.
but that one's kind of been closed. They just reopened it, but they moved it over to like the Imagination Pavilion. Um,
You're a frequent Disney dad when you have preferences on popcorn
oh yeah,
stand.
but yeah, we definitely have the numerous popcorn buckets, and I think one of the things that also makes it a great option there is the fact that it's probably the cheapest snack
Exactly.
you can get
Yeah.
once you have that popcorn
I was
bucket.
going to
So
get to that.
$2.
$2 refills.
Yeah.
There's nothing cheaper, I would argue, at
Hmm.
Walt Disney World than a $2 refill on popcorn.
Yeah.
So that probably makes it feel that much more magical when you're at Walt Disney World.
Hmm.
So yeah, absolutely. Totally get that. But yeah, the popcorn, I'm good with it. I
Yeah.
can sit on that green grass and stare at the castle for a long time while
Hmm.
I just sit and, munch on some popcorn. So
Yeah. The I think we, like you said, it's harder to partake of that right now.
yeah,
But I took my two sons by themselves, uh, you know, to Epcot, and we just like we're taking it super easy. So we just stayed in Future World. We didn't even make it to World Showcase, and we just kept getting. I think we got 5 popcorn bucket refills in like a couple hour period,
That's
and
awesome.
it turned out to work out because it was a day where Test Track was going up and down as
Got
far as being available, and they kept closing it, and everybody would leave, and then everybody would come back, and then like they do a test run, and everybody would like run over, and but we happened to be there eating popcorn right at the moment when they reopened, so we were able to get on it without having to do like the 120-minute wait. That's on
Only is
over there right now.
But it creates magical opportunities.
Yes, exactly. I would say so. So I love the popcorn. I say probably my favorite overall would be the school bread in the Norway Pavilion. And I'm not going to say it right, but the Kringla, the something bakery. So they had it on a cart for a little bit while the bakery was closed, and then they finally opened up the bakery. So was just
so you still got your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I also, and again, I'm pretty basic, but I also truly love Dole Whip. And I really like some of the different like seasonal offerings that they come out with at Aloha Isle as well. Like right now, they have a float with like chai tea and pistachio ice cream, which sounds like a weird combo, but I had it last week and it is delicious.
It is delicious. Yeah, we just had it Sunday, I think. Yep.
Yeah, it's so good. I'm always impressed by, some of the different seasonal things that they come out with. They had something a few weeks ago with coconut. It was like coconut soft served and then Dole Whip, and you can't go wrong with tropical flavors in my mind. So.
Oh no. Yeah, I enjoy. I enjoy even hearing about those. The fact that they make them. Like for some reason, I go in to Magic Kingdom often, saying I'm going to come. Like I'm going to make that a focus to get to Aloha Isle and try one of those, or sometimes they'll have like different ones at the Polynesian stand, and I'll try to get there, but then I end up not getting there. But I do appreciate that they have them for me to think about, even if I'm not able to get to them. But
it's dad life sometimes though. You want to go and explore all the snacks, but your kids look at you like, this is cool, but what are we riding right now?
It never quite we are like constantly adjusting. It's kind of how our format is. Sometimes we have a goal, but most of the time
I always, in my mind, it sounds ideal to be able to start in like one land and then make my way around the park, but that's like in reality it never works out for us like that. I think probably too because we're very particular about how long we wait in a line for an attraction. So if a line is too long in a land, I'm jumping over to the next one where the line's shorter. So especially right now in a world with no fast passes. But
there's occasions where we'll wait, and I think there's almost like some fun strategy right now with the way the lines are structured, because some of them are what they are, like as far as length, and then other ones
are not
look much longer than what they are.
Absolutely.
Like we've been looking at the Haunted Mansion line for a long time, because it stretches all the way out and then goes down to the river and then comes back up. And it's so it's a little intimidating to be like, especially if it's about to rain that day or something like that, whether you get in that line. But then we got in it, and it was like, I think the posted time was like 40, and it was like 15, just mainly the time to walk through all the areas. So it just depends. So but I definitely agree with the line strategy and trying to maximize the day instead of just being in one spot. So
man.
So one of the things that I'll normally ask too is, what is kind of your first Disney memory? If you can't think of it right now, we can move on to something else and just.
Yeah, no, that's a hard question for me.
Yeah.
I went to Disney for the first time, and the only reason I know this is because of pictures,
Hmm.
when I was 6 weeks old.
Okay.
Um, so I grew up in Central Florida, and I have been going to Disney since I was in diapers,
Hmm.
and so I can't say that there was like one moment that I remember seeing the castle for the first time,
Hmm.
or experiencing a fireworks show for the first time, because my childhood was built on that
Hmm.
being sort of a regular thing. But
Hmm.
I think that's what is like my favorite quote unquote first memories is that I was a kid who got to explore Disney like it was a playground.
Hmm.
Um, in my with my family, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My parents are both educators, but they always pushed to try to like make that magic happen for us as a
Hmm.
family. And staying at the resorts wasn't always very expensive. A lot of times there was really cool promotions throughout the
Hmm.
year, and they still do that. But definitely, the prices have increased over the years. Um, and so we would go sometimes and stay at one of the resorts and not even go into the parks.
Hmm.
And I have a lot of memories playing with my siblings at the pool and going down the slides, and you know back in the day going to downtown Disney, and I even remember when it was called Pleasure Island.
Hmm.
And so, I have so many memories from my childhood at Walt Disney World. I couldn't narrow it down to one in particular,
Yeah.
because it was integrated so much into my childhood.
Hmm.
And I'm so appreciative towards my parents for that and giving me those memories, and cultivating that atmosphere at Walt Disney World for us, that it was such a place for us to escape and make memories and just really bond together as a family. And every member of my family, I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and both of my parents, there was never a moment that I got the impression that anyone was unhappy to be there or
Yeah.
stressed out to be there. It was always a place that just brought us joy as a
Hmm.
family.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's sometimes when there can be stress when
For
you're
sure,
there,
for sure.
but yeah, I mean, I think that is awesome, and I think some of the things that we're looking at, it's like our kids have gotten a chance to be annual pass holders and
Yeah.
be there fairly often, and um, I think they still have that wonder, like every time we go through the gates.
Yeah.
um, Now that they're one of my sons used to have like almost like a GPS that
Yeah.
he would take like a nap on the way there, and then like as soon as we were like right under the
Oh,
arches going to um the gates for Walt Disney World, he would wake up and then be like
instant.
Mickey, Minnie, but they still are like Mickey,
Yeah.
Minnie, and oh, there's the Tower of Terror, and so they're excited about it every time, so much
Yeah.
so that they want to ride every ride every time, which we
Yeah.
can't do, but
Yeah.
and we try to remind them of that, but
They don't care.
they don't realize that. Like, this could be the last time, we
Yeah.
ever come to Disney. Let's do it all. But the but yeah, I I I remember some things about my trip. Yeah, I had like a trip when I think I was probably like 7 or 8,
Hmm.
um, and then one was when I was like 14. I remember um, one of the biggest things I remember from the one when I was 7 or 8 was the first park we went to was EPCOT, and I remember it was raining, and we got the yellow ponchos, and um, I remember I was trying to protect the video camera that we had by putting it in a plastic bag, but what I didn't realize was that was the plastic bag was the one that the wet umbrella had just come out of.
No,
So
no.
I didn't destroy it. There's still video evidence of the trip. my parents recently sent me the VHS tape of it because I was curious like what we had done, and there was tons of things I didn't remember that we had done. Like I was,
Yeah.
so I did like a whole series on that, but that was one of my distinct memories, was putting that video camera in the bag and not really thinking about it, and then getting the yellow ponchos almost immediately once we got there. So
That's awesome.
um,
That's I love it.
um,
No, yeah, it's funny, you know, as you were saying that in talking about EPCOT, I was thinking of like just specific memories that I have from my childhood at EPCOT, and some are great and some are not great. One of the things was when I was probably like, oh man, probably even 4 or 5 years old, and I remember my aunt picking me up and wanting to throw me into the fountain past Spaceship Earth. She was joking, obviously, but just like playfully picking me up and pretending like she was going to throw me into the fountain, and me being like traumatized over that for like 15 minutes afterwards. But that was just like looking back, a fun memory. You know, in the moment for sure wasn't the best times, but I'll miss that fountain for sure. And then also I remember it being so much fun and so cool to just go into I can't even think of the name of it right now. And all the EPCOT stands are going to go after me for that. But the little shop where you could try Coke from around the world. I remember trying.
yeah, Club Cool.
Club Cool, that's what it is. I remember, you know, I have a lot of memories as a child just going in there and thinking it was so cool to be able to try Coca-Cola products from around the world, and always talking with my siblings about what our favorite one was. And I think that the one from, I think it was Mexico, was one of my favorites. I don't even remember what it tastes like, but yeah, I think it was just
like Inca Cola or something.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was cool just to be able to experience that. So that's a childhood memory that I have, and makes me sad because Luke got to experience what that was like when he was very little. You know, R.I.P. to Club Cool. So
Yeah. Well, you know, yeah, some things, are definitely things that will change over time.
oh yeah,
You know, I didn't realize that we spent, like, on our first trip, I didn't realize we spent so much time in, like, um, I don't know what it was called at the time because it changed names so many times at Walt Disney World, but like Mickey's Toontown,
yeah,
Mickey's Starland, and there were a few other names for it, I think, as
yeah,
the time went on, because it was originally like Mickey's Birthday Land, but
yeah.
then his birthday was over, so they had to figure out
Switch
what
it
to
up.
name it after that. But yeah, it seemed like we spent a lot of time over there when we were at Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I
Um,
used to love Toontown.
yeah.
I have a lot of memories from my childhood there. I remember kind of working up the guts to ride Barnstormer.
Mhm.
You know, in hindsight, it's like, seriously, dude, you know, you can handle more. I promise, Nick. But it's cool because now I'm getting, and although Toontown is not there, and it kind of does kind of make me sad because I definitely think that Luke would have loved to walk through Mickey and Minnie's house.
Mhm.
Um, but Barnstormer still exists. And so the fact that I get to experience that with Luke, that's usually one of Luke's like go-tos as soon as we get into Magic Kingdom.
Mhm.
Like that kind of gets his day started off right. He knows that Mine Train's probably going to have a long wait. So he's like, let's go do some Barnstormer. He could probably ride that. I think he and Francie rode it together 3 times back to back, and he probably would have kept going if he could.
Yeah.
Um, so it's cool, you know, even though that land is gone, the fact that Barnstormer is still around, and that, you know,
Mhm.
you still get some of the Mickey and Minnie Mouse, the vibes over there of the Fab Five. It's cool. It's cool to be
Yeah.
able to make new memories and kind of hold on to some of the old ones as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the, and I don't have video footage of this, so I don't think we did it, but like the Mickey Mouse review that was in what is now PhilharMagic.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see that. I know that some of the animatronics still exist, like here and there.
Yeah.
Um, at various other rides and things like that.
It's funny. I probably experienced it. I don't remember it, and I
Yeah.
remember Fill Our Magic opening,
Hmm.
um, and I remember going to the parks to Magic Kingdom shortly after it opened. But
Right.
I don't have a whole lot of memory of like what was there before that.
Yeah.
So
But yeah. Well, I think those are some good trips down memory lane there.
yeah, for
And,
sure. The good old.
um, yeah. Um, so I think one of the things that um, we wanted to talk about here is just going in a little bit about like I said, celebrating National Adoption Month, and um, so this one of the things that was started on is trying to find fellow Disney dads, and especially adoptive Disney dads. I knew many people were out there, and I have to say you are the first person I found as far as like being talking about it, and
Yeah,
of the different dads that I've tried to follow on Instagram and otherwise. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on during this time, and just to talk about things. And everybody's um, there's lots of different perspectives on adoption. There's different parts of the process that you might be in. There's international adoption, domestic adoption. There's supporting adoption,
yeah.
where you're not directly in it. So, just wanted to hear a little bit more about. You talk about it a little bit on your Instagram, but just tell us a little bit more about your um, adoption experience, and we'll have a few conversations on that from there as well.
Yeah, so my wife Francie and we made the decision to start the process in May of this year, which has been pretty interesting to navigate in 2020 amidst a worldwide pandemic, and all of the things that have been associated with that.
Mhm.
Um, but our journey to adoption started long before our decision in May. Adoption has been a part of both of our families. My aunt adopted her son from Russia when I was a teenager. And I remember just, really being in the know on what was happening through that process. My family, my extended family at the time, was very close with one another. And, I just remember walking through all of that with my aunt. I remember, um, it's funny, it's cool to look back and see that I did have a strong passion for adoption without being able to like name that when I was a teenager. But and I was probably like 13 years old at the time. um, but I wrote a letter to my aunt while she was in Russia, as they were going through, finalizing the adoption in Russia. And I wrote a letter to her asking if I could be the first one to hold my cousin, as they got off the airplane at the airport. And
Nice.
because of that, she got off the airplane and she was like, Nick was one of the first, so here you go. And so just being able to hold my cousin in that moment meant so much to me. And I was just so thankful to have been able to see that process.
Mhm.
And so, as I got older and as I went into college, I went to a private Christian university that works a lot. They send out mission trips every year, and I got to be a part of some of those teams that went kind of all over the place. But we got to work in orphanages in different countries, and that was such a special experience for me. Just different things that were continuing to contribute to that passion that I had
Mhm.
for adoption. And simultaneously, before I met my wife, she also has a similar story in terms of adoption being incorporated into her family. Her parents adopted her cousin when she was younger, and so she navigated through that process, and she also got to go on some of those missions trips while we were in college. In fact, that's how we met each other in school. And so from the get-go, even before Francie and I had started dating one another, we were a best friends turned into couple,
Hmm.
story. I had to take the leap of faith in fear that I would be friend zoned, to acknowledge my feelings for Francie while I was in school,
Hmm.
uh, and and obviously it worked out. But yeah, so even during the process of us getting to know each other and becoming good friends, we always talked about, one day when we're married, we want to adopt, and not knowing even at that time that we would one day be married to one another.
Hmm.
And then falling in love with each other. We definitely always talked about how, at one point or at some point in our life, adoption will absolutely be a part of our family story.
Hmm.
So it was something that we talked about for a long time. And um, I think probably it would be remiss to not mention that one of the things that led us to the point where we knew it was our time to take the step into adoption was, 2.5 years ago. We went through a miscarriage. We had not been trying for a long time to get pregnant after, Luke was born. We knew that we wanted to have some space between, um, having another child, and we got pregnant in, February of 2018, and then went through a miscarriage in April. And so that was really, really tough on us. It definitely, it broke our hearts. It was a tough season to walk through. Um, and after the miscarriage, our doctors and everyone told us, like, you know don't quit, keep trying. And we did. And month after month it was no, and a no, and a no, and that was heartbreaking, and it was tough. It was a tough journey to walk through. It was a tough season to be in. But it's interesting because we had this conversation, in April of this year, about adopting. And for months prior to that, both of us had been feeling like, we were continuing to get no's towards having another biological child,
Hmm.
for right now. And we felt like maybe, what are we doing? Like,
Hmm.
it kind of felt like it was being made clear to us that, adoption was supposed to be a part of our story, and we had always known that. And what were we wasting our time on? Like, what? Not, not, I don't want to say wasting our time, maybe that's a strong way of putting it, but it was like, this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So we had both been thinking that separately, and so when we came together and had that conversation, it was like we both had a moment of like, well, yeah, why didn't we say something to each other about this? And
Yeah.
as a man and as a father and a husband, you want to tread carefully through those conversations. Obviously, you want to make sure that, like, you're protecting her heart. Um, but it was like, it just was so confirmed to us, that that's what was supposed to be next for us. Like, this is exactly what we should be walking into. And so, yeah, so in May we started to do our research. And also another emphasis on the passion for adoption. My wife was actually an adoption specialist,
Hmm.
for an organization for a period of time, and that
Nice.
agency has closed their private adoption program, so she's not currently working in adoption.
Hmm.
um, but she did for a couple of years. And so, she definitely knows how to do her homework, and she's definitely familiar with the process.
Hmm.
She's helped navigate the process domestically, with families through many a cases.
Hmm.
And so we started to do our research. We started to do our homework and talked a lot about, like, what we thought that would look like. And you start to talk about, okay, are we going to be looking at potentially doing a domestic adoption or an international adoption? And international adoption has always been on my heart specifically. I think that watching my aunt walk through international adoption and adopting from Russia, meant a lot, obviously, to me as a child. And my mom is Cuban, so I'm half Latino, and
Hmm.
and I have a huge passion for Latin America. I've been on, missions trips to Costa Rica, El Salvador, and Colombia. And so, being in those countries, getting to work into different orphanages in those countries, it was kind of a no-brainer to me to pursue adoption in a Latin American country. So we started to research different agencies, and found one in particular that worked with several Latin American countries. And a lot of people don't know that, like, every country has its different standards or guidelines when it comes to adoption.
Yeah.
Some countries are easier to work with, other countries are more difficult to work with. Um, and,
Yeah,
and
it can be different for the different couples and where
yeah,
they are in life too, depending on
exactly.
the things that they're able to do. So yeah.
Right, and every family is fit for different children when it comes to adopting, and
Hmm.
certain countries see children of different, a vast, majority of different ages, and some children have stronger medical needs than others do,
Hmm.
and so kind of like what we felt like would fit our family, um, for right now. Um, it worked well. The agency recommended that we go through Colombia. So
Hmm.
that is how it kind of came down to adopting through Colombia for us. And that is the journey that we're on. It's really cool because the mission trip that I went on to Colombia was actually with Francie. After we had gotten married, we kind of promised ourselves that before we started trying to have children, we would travel internationally at least
Hmm.
once. And so we got to go stay at an orphanage for 2 weeks in Colombia through our church. Yeah, so it was just really cool and really special that we got to have that experience together and have a little quick picture of what the culture in Colombia looks like.
Hmm.
And so it's cool to think about that in hindsight, and to look at where we're at now in adopting from Colombia. It's just really cool that
Yeah.
that's the country that we got to travel together, and we'll be the next time that we go back to that country, it will be to expand our family. So yeah, that's kind of like
Yeah.
how we got to where we're at. And then specifically with the adoptive process, we are nearing the end of our home study. In fact, we have just a few more things to get done, little
Hmm.
documents to check off the list. And I don't know, I'm sure that some may listen to this and not fully understand what a home study
Hmm.
even means. It's like a complete and total background check on you and your home, to ensure that you are, really in a good place to
Hmm.
to expand your family. Um, and we've had visits from our social worker. We've had doctor's visits, medical clearances.
Hmm.
We've had psychological evaluations. It's been very extensive. It's funny. I've walked through the process and been like, man, why didn't I have any of this before I became a biological father? Like, I feel like there's a lot of parents that should have to walk through a home study before they become parents. Um, but it's been really cool. It's been
Hmm.
challenging, absolutely, but encouraging in the same way. We've learned so much about ourselves as parents through the process, and we've also learned so much about each other. We've learned more about our marriage. So
Hmm.
it's been very encouraging to hear and get like official feedback that, like, hey, you're doing a pretty good job at this. It's always encouraging to hear that from people, and the fact that it's coming from a social worker whose sole job is to tell people whether they're doing a good job at parenting or not is
Hmm.
it's pretty encouraging. So yeah, so we're almost done with that, and then we're on to the next. We will have what they call a dossier be compiled and sent over to the uh, the government in Colombia, looking for approval for that. We'll go through immigration processes as well. Um, Once we have clearance from the government in Colombia, um, we will begin to get potential matches, and then it's just the waiting game. It's going to be, you know, kind of a wait to see when Colombia sends the match our way.
Hmm.
We'll review the file and then go from there. So
Yeah. I think that puts it in the it's a big nutshell, but
For
in the
sure.
nutshell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll go back and touch on a few things that just spoke to me, and how um our experience goes. Yeah, I think God works on each individual person as they're going through that. Like you said, you were both thinking about it, and then you kind of came together in that moment
Yeah.
when it was like, okay, this.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to kind of look at it from that standpoint, as like adoption is a very individualized thing for the people that are involved in it, and um, not everybody's going to necessarily understand it that's around you or anything like
Right.
that. So you got to kind of um, uh, and sometimes you might find that, like, um, support wise, the people that you thought were like going to be your biggest supporters may not be as as much as you think, not necessarily negatively, but just not um as not understanding kind of some of the pieces
Yeah.
of it. And then the vice versa may be true, where some of your biggest supporters come out of the woodworks, or people that you never had met in the past
Absolutely.
that become some of your biggest fans, and part of your adoption experience. And um the just to um touch on like the different, like, just on we'll just talk about international, because there's so many different directions you could take that. But like,
Yeah.
um for instance, we adopted from China, and we had to be like, you have to be a certain age to adopt from China, and you
Yeah.
have to be um a, our agency that we went through with the first time, some agencies work with very specific countries, some agencies work with a lot. Ours worked with a lot, but they had like a whole matrix of all those different things. So it depends on how much like vacation time you may have available, because you may have to be in the country for a little bit, depending on what country it is. There may be different wait times, different
Yeah.
financial requirements, health requirements,
Yeah. All of the above.
and they could all change at any time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And one of the countries, that, just looking at it on paper, and with regards to travel, the Dominican Republic was a country that this agency works with,
mhm,
and that's not far from Florida. But
mhm.
the country requires the adoptive parents to live in that country, I think, for 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
And it was like, well, that's not exactly, we can't exactly leave our home and lives for 6 months
Mhm.
to travel to adopt. You know, I wish. That sounds great, living in the Dominican Republic for 6 months, but it doesn't work for our family right now. And so yeah, like you said, it's very different. Every country is different, and I love that the agencies are able to look at what your family is really like ready for,
Mhm.
and able to match you with a country based on that.
Yeah. I mean, for ours, they had just started a program for Hong Kong, and it was because it was a newer program and everything. There was a little bit um, of a price break there, so we're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that one's the
Perfect.
one that would be great. Um,
Yeah.
and but because of the way that program was structured, it was more like, um, not that we necessarily couldn't have handled it, but it was like more specific, special, like more extreme special needs, and we were just not necessarily equipped
Yeah.
to handle that. Not that you can't be equipped to handle things that aren't apparent when you first,
Right.
get information on who your
Yeah.
potential child is going to be, because that can change, and we've
Yeah.
seen both
You-
sides of that coin
Yeah.
in our experiences. But
Yeah.
the adoption, like you said, the adoption agency recommended China for us, and like, that's a little bit more expensive. But there's the ways that um, it's amazing, the ways that through fundraising and things like that, um, that the money comes from
Oh,
different places that you would never expect it. All the way down to like And I think, you know, God was like laughing on this one where one time you just get random things that happen that you can't really explain. Like
Yeah.
we had apparently been paying, you know, we switched houses at one point and we had apparently been paying for the insurance because the insurance for one house from one company didn't realize there was some issue where they didn't get notified that the insurance was switching. So
Yeah.
we've been paying that, but then the money came back to us at a time when we needed it,
Oh, that's awesome.
and to a point where like um, we had um, my wife had insurance like from when she had bought her car when she was um, 18 or 19 when we were in college, and the um, we haven't had that insurance. We haven't been in that state, for I don't
Yeah.
know how long. But somehow, through all the different change of addresses that we did, she got like a $6 check back because she had overpaid at one point, way back when, and there was
Yeah.
$6 that came in. Yeah, so it just depends
Yeah.
on things.
That's
And
awesome.
I know, you're starting with some of your fundraising efforts. So tell us about. Um, I know you have a T-shirt that you're working on,
Yeah.
and if there's anything else that's out there that I haven't heard about publicly on your Instagram, if you want to share
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah. So
Let us
we,
know.
it's like you said, it's so crazy to see the support that you receive. And social media is a huge factor in that for sure. Even sharing our story on our personal page. We started with when we first announced that we were adopting, we started by um, I'm sure you've heard of this before, but a lot of times adoptive families will use a puzzle, and you sell basically
Hmm.
or have sponsored pieces of the puzzle.
Hmm.
And we had people sending us money to sponsor puzzle pieces. Basically what you do is you take that puzzle and you can put it together. You can even write like their name on the back of the puzzle piece that they buy, or a
Hmm.
message that they would want incorporated into it. And then we are going to take that puzzle, put it together, and put it into our future child's room. And it's actually pretty cool. It's the map of Colombia.
Nice.
um, but it was insane to see some of the people that were reaching out and sending us money for puzzle pieces. It was
Hmm.
people that I didn't even know knew what was going on in my life
Hmm.
anymore. It was all through social media, but it was people that like, I was an after school care worker when I was in high school, and
Hmm.
I worked with a lot of elementary school kids. And it was students that I used to have in my after school care program when I was in high school that were
Hmm.
sending me money for my adoption. And I was just like, what in the world? First of all, like, you were a third grader to me, and that's what you still are, but the fact that they had money to send me for my
Yeah.
adoption threw me off anyways. But it was just really encouraging to see like the outpouring of love that we had from people, and specifically the outpouring of their like financial resources was a huge help to kind of get the ball rolling. International
Mhm.
adoption is very expensive, um, more so than it should be. But it's really cool and encouraging to see who all supports you with that, and then specifically with Dream and Disney Dad, announcing the adoption. And then we reached out to a t-shirt, a small shop, a Disney small shop on Instagram called Beauty in the Tea. Um, and asked if they'd be interested in partnering with us and doing a collaboration on a Disney inspired t-shirt that
Mhm.
also had messages of adoption in it, and using that as a fundraiser. And so we partnered with them. Again, it's Beauty in the Tea. We developed a Tarzan themed shirt. um, the front of the shirt says two worlds, one family. And then at the back of the shirt, it says, I know we're different, but deep inside us, we're not that different at all.
Mhm.
Which are both lyrics from two songs in the movie Tarzan. But obviously, the movie Tarzan has such strong adoptive, theming to it. Um, and so it was really cool. It's been cool to see like the interest in that shirt.
Mhm.
if anybody that is listening to this is ever interested, they can find it on Beauty and the Tea's page or on my page, but also on Beauty and the Tea's website. And I'll make sure to get all that information to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been really cool. It's been cool to see, like, just the Disney community is so powerful. It's so cool. People can come together and celebrate a love for Disney, but then really just kind of like walk alongside of each other as they go through life together. And it's like complete strangers, that I really only know through Instagram are sending me money or buying t-shirts and sharing that and really just sharing the post and talking about how excited they are for us. And I'm constantly humbled by that. It's so encouraging to us. And that's been really cool. That's been really huge. And another huge opportunity that we have right now is we were presented with a matching grant opportunity. And so we have the potential to unlock up to $4,000 through a grant that was provided to us through an agency that we applied through. And so on my Instagram page, there's a link on my bio that people can just kind of go give directly towards our adoption. And that's been great because all of the funds from that are all going to end up going towards our adoption, but they're doubled when they're given on there, up to $4,000. So that's been really cool too. Like I said, just to see random people go on there and give. It's just, I'm constantly blown away by it. I'll be sitting next to my wife and I'm like, what the heck? This person just gave us $100, like who, like, why do they, I've never met them in person before, and so it's just cool. That you get to see like the really good sides of humanity when you're walking through something like this, and you're just constantly humbled. I'm not one to ask for help often. I'm the one that likes to help others, and so to have people offer their support when we truly just need it, it's been really, really encouraging to us. So yeah. That's been huge for us, and that's kind of what we're undertaking right now is the t-shirts, and then just really trying to get to that $4,000 mark so that we can unlock it and move forward. That's one big part of the next step is we have a fee that we have to pay in order to complete the home study, and until we pay that fee, the home study's not complete.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I would imagine how a lot of agencies work with international adoption. It's like benchmarks. So we've got to get there so that we can kind of continue to move forward in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's amazing where things will come from, and there's no good time, I would say, unless, like, I mean, there's some people that could just help fund their own adoption, but for
Right.
the common person, there's not really a good time financially if you look at your own finances. I mean, like we said, there's certain requirements and things like that within certain countries and things like that as far as finances, but they're not like but if you're thinking about adoption, don't let the fees kind of scare you away from that, because there's ways, there's opportunities, there's places where that can come from, and you just got to have some faith to take. Adoption's all about the next step, and taking that next step, and getting there a little bit at a time. And I definitely know about those benchmarks, and
it's true though. It is a huge financial undertaking, but I think it intimidates so many people at the front end because they're like, well, I don't have that money just sitting around, and
nobody does.
There's not very many people in this world that do. And so so really, it's like it's having the faith to walk in those steps when you feel like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And then,
Mm.
there's no other way for me to describe it without saying that God's going to show up and do the rest.
Right.
So,
Yeah. It's,
that's what we've seen so far. So,
yeah. And, even, us, like we believed in God, we believed in the adoption process. We had faith that was what we were supposed to be doing at the time. And
yeah,
we went to like some adoption group meetings and things like that. And one of the first things we asked people is like, well, how did you raise the money? And they're like, well, God just, provided and, gave a few examples. I'm like, okay, but how did you raise, we kept asking the question, even though we knew the answer to it. And eventually we realized what they were saying in terms of, things coming from different places. Like I said, I think I was laughing at our initial, you know, um, question by
yeah,
sending, getting that $6 check to us from,
yeah,
16 addresses ago.
yeah,
So
yeah. Like if I can get you this, I can do anything.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's true. And I mean, obviously too, like, you know, faith is a huge factor, but also
mm,
just like utilizing your resources. Like
yeah.
there are a lot of resources out there. There's so many grants, and that's why we're
Mm,
so eager to kind of jump this next hurdle and be complete with the home study.
mm,
A lot of grant opportunities don't take you seriously until you're done with the home study, which is understandable. They want to make sure that like you're ready to go,
yeah.
uh, that an agency is taking you seriously. And so really there truly are a lot of resources out there, and those initial figures, when you get them, they look very intimidating. I mean, I remember
Hmm.
looking with my wife, and I tend to lean into the faith side. She's more rational. I'm like, let's go, let's do this. And
Hmm.
she's like, hold on a second, what does this actually look like? And
Hmm.
and I think growing up in a house where my parents were educators, and my dad was a pastor growing up, we didn't have a lot, and there was a lot of times where it was like, where are we going to get the funds to pay for this bill next month?
Hmm.
And God showed up for us. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so I think a lot of it is just kind of leaning into that faith, but then also taking that, like, those smarts that we have, and
Hmm.
being like, okay, let's really truly apply ourselves here,
Yeah.
on the fundraising front, and research grant opportunities, and apply and apply and apply. We're eager to kind of get into some of those, especially with completing our home study. So
Yeah. I think sometimes you got to you got to put forth the effort, not necessarily knowing where it's going to take you,
exactly.
because you don't know where you're going to be with each of those steps until you take them. So taking those steps puts you in the position sometimes to be part of that. Like we didn't really get much grant. We knew about some of the grants and things like that. We applied for many of the grants. Some
Yeah,
are harder than some. It's like you say, I want the grant, and then you're part of the grant process. And then
yeah,
other ones, it's like there's, a,
love.
you're filling out more paperwork than you did for the actual adoption itself,
Right, right.
for the grant process. And, one of those that we did, we're like, I don't know if I want to do this one again, when we adopted the second time. But the second time we got, we got a good part of our funding from that grant.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
it didn't work out, the first time because of the way the funding was. So you never know, and um, you just you got to do things in order for God to be able to bless it sometimes,
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
and then you go from there. But yeah, so I think that is, yeah, important. That's why I want to talk a little bit more about it. But
Yeah, no, it's a huge
um,
factor. I think a lot of people, like you said earlier, a lot of people are intimidated by the adoption process as a
mhm,
whole. And I think financially is one of the major reasons why people can be intimidated by it. Obviously, international adoption is more costly than domestic would be, but there's just so many resources and opportunities out there for people.
mhm,
Uh, and I think you would agree that both you and I could be a resource for people as well.
mhm.
Like,
Yep, certainly.
if anybody ever had any questions, I'm always welcome and ready to answer. Obviously, we're going through the process ourselves, so we don't have all the answers. And
Yeah.
even every adoption journey is so different. I don't think any one person could say, yeah, this is exactly how it's going to be for you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think this community, like building a circle around yourself of people who've walked through that journey as well, it's encouraging. We got to meet up with a friend, adopt like Walt,
Hmm.
on Instagram. We got to meet up with Angie over at Magic Kingdom last week, and it's just something special. It's like it's a
Yeah.
club. We're in a club of our own for sure, and it's fun and it's special, and that you get to have a conversation with that person and they get it and they understand, even though they haven't walked exactly where you're walking. They've been on a similar path, and um, it's something special that families can unite through,
Yeah.
is the adoptive process. So
Yeah. And I think um, we haven't like met the Adopt Like Walk folks, but we got a pin from them
yeah,
a while back before we knew who they were, and before I knew that they knew you. I mean, it was like a couple years ago, I think.
yeah,
Um, and I think it's neat to know too that from the Disney community side, like you said, Tarzan and a number of Disney films have
oh for sure,
adoptive themes throughout them, um, and Disney, although he didn't talk about it much because it was a little bit different era in the
yeah,
adoption game, but Walt Disney himself, was an adoptive dad, so
exactly,
um,
exactly.
so
Yeah, it's
that's cool.
you know it's always interesting to me to think about like how Walt would have handled that today.
Hmm.
I think that things have changed because people talk about it more,
Hmm.
um, because it obviously it's so funny to me that it's something that people need to even talk about more, because it's like, and I don't know, in my mind it's such a natural and normal thing that it's like, what the heck,
Yeah.
but I think that like it's encouraging, to know that Walt went through that process. And I call myself Dreamindisneydad on Instagram, for a reason, and that reason is that I want to be like Walt, in that he created a special world for his children, um, to go to escape the realities of their day-to-day lives, and to just
Mhm.
have fun and to make memories as a family, and to know that one of his children he had adopted, and part of that wanting to create that space for them is so special to me.
Mhm.
It's encouraging as a father for sure, um, and then also it's so special to see that, like you said, implemented into so many storylines within Disney. I mean, if someone were to Google adoption storylines in Disney movies, I mean, there's a lot. There are a
Mhm.
lot of movies that have that theming in it, and obviously it doesn't always particularly look exactly like an adoption. uh,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I always loved about Tarzan. Obviously it's very different, like,
Yeah.
you know Tarzan being adopted into a gorilla family is very different for sure, but
Yep.
it's true, like the love that his mother had for him, and accepting him so quickly into her heart, and then to watch like what that story looks like as he kind of figures out more about like his personal identity, but to know that, like, to see their bond continue, and to know that he's like, that's my mom. I don't
Mhm.
know, it's something special, and it's something, um so cool to see, and it's inspiring for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you know Mowgli in like the Jungle Book, and
Yeah,
that's a good example too of like there's maybe potentially other people that are going to have that influence and be a part of that journey as well. It's like Mowgli grew up with the um, one group of animals, but there was many people involved in getting him
yeah.
where he
Oh
ended
yeah,
up in that movie.
concept
So
of it
yeah,
takes a village,
yeah.
like yeah, he grew up in the wolf pack,
Hmm.
but also, Baloo and Bagheera, and all of the
Yeah.
animals that had an impact on his life. It's just, I don't know, it's really cool. It's really cool to like, um, to think about all of those different movies, and to kind of see those stories play out. It makes it helps people have a conversation too. Like I was mentioning, a couple minutes ago, it helps people have a conversation about without even realizing they're having a conversation about it. It just becomes
Yeah.
normal, So
Nice. Yeah, and I know, and I think I find it really cool that you are already like experiencing this and looking forward to that as a dad and everything. I know like Disney has been a great place for us to get away from
yeah,
everything that's going on in the world to focus on being a family and being adopted family specifically, and um, where we can just. I was telling someone from one of the other interviews that I did, like one of the first things we did with our both of our adoptions, we left China through Hong Kong, and we went to Hong Kong Disneyland, and
that's
that was
awesome.
just an opportunity that there wasn't other things we had to think about. We didn't have to,
Yeah,
yeah, and even being in a different country, different languages, and um, in Hong Kong they have people that speak pretty good English. They may not necessarily understand all of what you're. Um, I
yeah,
found that they speak very good English, but they may not necessarily understand what you're saying. So they'll still we'll work it out, and that. Um,
that's really cool to
yeah.
have that, like staple of Disney in a different
Hmm.
country would be
Yeah.
really cool to experience, especially going through something so vulnerable like an adoption.
Yeah.
I mean, emotions are high, and things can be very, I think sometimes too, maybe people think adoption's like a tale of love and just happiness and joy, and it is in the end for sure, but I mean it has its low points too. It comes with heartbreak, it comes with tears, it comes with fear, it comes with to stress and anxiety. It's like
Hmm.
it's a roller coaster of emotion, and that's parenting is like that as well.
Yeah.
So um that's really cool. You just like talking about that, you just made me think about how cool it is to have Disney internationally for
Yeah.
families that are walking through that process to be able to lean into. That's really special.
Yeah, and I would mention to anybody that like is, um, and I'm not saying that international adoption is for everybody or that
Right.
domestic is or anything like that. Yeah, everybody has to choose their own path, and we
Yeah.
have different paths, and that's
Right.
great that we get to share in that experience. And um, I'll say that at least in our experiences in China, like every um, some people are afraid to get there or they want to rush through that process, but the the we were not afraid to be there, and like
Yeah.
people, you learn how to talk to people even if you don't know like languages. You learn how to speak even if you don't know um, what's going on in the culture or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's not this. Yeah, it's something to kind of observe and have some information on, but not necessarily have to worry about. I mean, we um, we had a situation where we needed to um, wash our clothes, and we got the washing down because we did it like in our sink with some Tide Pods and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
realized none of these clothes are drying, and we're going to have to leave for the next city that we're supposed to be in a few hours. So I was so I took information from the hotel in my suitcase full of wet clothes, and was just kind of walking around and um, with some information on where a place might possibly be, and a picture on of it on my iPad of like what the storefront was supposed to look like. Um,
Yeah.
and then somebody found me and pointed me in the right direction, and we were able to
Yeah.
communicate what I needed, and then
Yeah.
got my clothes dried, and and off
I,
we went.
I really
So
enjoy that element of traveling
yeah.
internationally. And it helps that I can speak some Spanish, so that'll be helpful for sure when
Hmm.
traveling to Colombia. But it don't know. There's just something fun to me, and I'm sure this is not for everybody, but there's something so fun and special to me about kind of getting lost into the culture of a different place.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily mean getting lost in a city or physically lost in a
Right.
city, but really just, you know, kind of diving deep into understanding like a different way of life is special to me,
Mhm.
because I think sometimes we become small-minded people, and we think that like our way of living is the way of living, um, and it's not. And I think especially to being spoiled by getting to go to Disney all the time. You know, there's so many people, not even just within the United States, but you know, we think that like, I remember being on a mission trip in El Salvador, and I remember talking to a little boy in Spanish about the United States and what life was like over here. And I had a picture of Cinderella's castle on my phone, and I remember showing him the picture and being like, you know, do you think one day you'd want to go see that in the United States, like Walt Disney World? You know, assuming that like, duh, every kid wants to go to Disney. And he looked at me and he was like, no. And I was like, what? Like, excuse me? You know, offended. Don't talk about Cinderella's castle like that. But I asked him, I said, why would you want to go to the United States? And he said, to study. And I was like,
Mhm.
what? Like, what, you know, what kid in the United States would you sit down and say, like, you know, for what reason would you ever want to travel to Florida? And I guarantee a lot of them, their answer would not be, oh, yeah, I want to go study in Florida. You know, it'd be like, I'd want to go study the rides at Walt Disney World or the beach or something like that. But it was just really cool and eye-opening to see that. It's like a perspective shift, a little change of being like, there's a huge world out there that exists, and it
Mhm.
doesn't exist within my level of thinking sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, people approach life very differently and in different ways, and certain things are very important to people, and it was just cool to see. And you know, those moments have happened to me several times traveling internationally, where I'm just like, this is it's a great big world out there. You
Mhm.
know, it's I don't know, it's special. And you know, it's a small world after all, but it's pretty big.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we could wrap things up on a better note than that.
Yeah.
Than it's a small world after all. So, uh,
The true way to end
yes,
trip
exactly.
down Disney World. So
Yeah. So, I think we will wrap things up on that. And I really do appreciate you coming on and talking to us, well, me talking to me,
yeah,
and you know, I always enjoy the discussions I have. I never know exactly where they're going to lead, and
yeah, I love it.
um, I'm looking forward to continuing to celebrate National Adoption Month um, and hear more about your story and following it on Instagram. So if you want to remind people where they can find
Yeah,
you and information about your fundraisers and things like that as well, that
yeah.
way they can check those out and be part of that story.
So you can find me personally on Instagram at Dreamindisneydad. Again, that's Dreamin' without the G, Disney Dad. And then I'm also on YouTube as well, at Dreamindisneydad, and then do some vlogging for Happiest Podcast on Earth from time to time. You can see me and my little man go on some Disney adventures. And then also, our t-shirts are through Beauty and the Tea. You can find their information also on my Instagram page. I posted recently about the shirts, and will be continuing to do so.
Hmm.
Um, and then we also have the link to our donation page for our adoption in our bio. So yeah, man, I'm super grateful for you asking me to be on here. I feel humbled by it. I'm like, who am I? Like, why do I matter? Why does my opinion matter? But it's been so encouraging to talk to you, and yeah, it's special. It's cool
Likewise.
to
Yep.
find other dads that love Disney, but love their families, you know, most importantly. And that's really cool and really special. So
I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm sure we'll continue to talk more from here. So this won't be the end of the conversation, but
yeah, man.
just maybe the end of the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we'll get some popcorn together at the
there you
magic.
go. There you go. Um, all right. And so I'll go ahead and wrap things up here for Dads of Adventure. So Again, you can find, we'll get all the information in the show notes and links through YouTube. So check us out, check that out there. But for us, you can find us at Dads of Adventure on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And again, you can go to the website at dadsofadventure.com to sign up for the newsletter and the membership, and support Dads of Adventure if you choose to do so. And you can also, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, you can find this in video format on the Dreams Magic Adventure YouTube channel. And if you're watching, you can find that in podcast format on your favorite podcast app. So, again, thank you for listening. We'll continue to have some discussions here through National Adoption Month. And for now, I'll say, go have an adventure with your family.